Hey, man.
Hey,
Oh, man. That's right. Hold on one second.
no worries, man.
Okay. All right, bro. So, let's talk about like kind of what's going on with your tank and basically why it's happening and what we can do to help you.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Right now,
Yeah. So just give me an overall basic kind of summary of what your system is and filtration, lighting, types of corals you have, and all that.
sounds good. I I've got a 124 by 2 by 2 tank.
Jeremy, can you come into the shot?
Yeah, I put in earpods
Okay.
to help.
Okay.
Um, and so what my problem has been is getting. I like to do a mixed reef. I know, and I wanted to start adding acros. And my main problem is ensuring that my light and all my levels and dosing is where it should be with the type of system I have to get the most growth possible.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, no, I totally agree. Me personally, I think having a mixed reef is kind of like aesthetically more pleasing. You know, I mean, of course, acropore dominant tanks are cool, but just having like acros, torches, everything is really cool. So, um, yeah. So, just tell me like just like an overall of your filtration and lighting, and
No
like
problem.
pros.
So I just added a third light. I got 6 pucks. Um, with the filtration, I just have very basic filtration. My skimmer's
What's up,
six, seven
Andrew?
year, 6 or 7 years old. I run bio pellets for nitrates. I've got a really healthy refugium stocked with live rock, and then I'm running carbon, GFO, and aquachar. I have the Neptune system, probably not utilized as well as I should. I I'm only dosing calcium and alkalinity. I've been seeing a drop in both recently, which to me means my coral is growing, but the only thing that hasn't grown is my acros. And I've
Mm,
noticed I've noticed that with my acros, some have great color, some don't. So I've been playing with intensity. I've always been told blue is where you need to be at, and I had my reds, my greens, my UV, everything else very, very low, um, because it's a mixed reef. And then I run 2 MP40s because I've always get a lot of flow and another fan or two in there. Um, 4 different settings on the MP40s, going 6 hours at a time
yeah.
at now about 85% of their power.
Yeah. Okay. So like, all right. So like, most or like the way like modern like science thinks about how corals obtain light energy, is you've got like the main chlorophyll A and B, or I'm sorry, A and C, and then you have accessory pigments. Um, Chlorophyll, I believe. So like chlorophyll A and C, it's kind of like to the left of the spectrum,
Okay.
and that's where you're going to see most of your energy obtained. So it's not an exact science though, and that's what gets tricky. You know, you've got par, per, and then you've got intensity. So
And intensity is always where I've been, I see so many different people posting about which intensity, what intensity, height, level, and then also bioload. And it just seems like I can't get that aspect. Just, I wanted to do acro to challenge myself. And I feel like they're just surviving.
yeah, well, I think like when back in the metal halide days, it was kind of just plug and play, right? And the 20K, the 14K lights were all full spectrum, and they were intense as shit. So I think it was actually probably easier back then. But then when the LEDs came in, it gave the user the option um to play with the channels, and everything went to shit, bro. Like, I mean, and like people right now are growing corals with what's aesthetically pleasing rather than what's actually healthy, or like healthy for the coral.
Absolutely.
You know, um, like I get blue looks good, but when it comes to intensity, I was talking to you about the like the ratio of white to green to yellow to red to blue to UV.
Yeah.
When you look at the how the company presents the spectrum, that's with
Yep.
like that's with all of the channels turned up. So it's already in a proper ratio for you to grow corals. So if you eliminate one, it kind of like, I mean, it just I don't think it's good for your corals. I mean, you can use white, which is like the full spectrum. Um, but yeah, man. So intensity is really important. So I don't know.
Based on what you just said, so like, I mean, I can easily show that I got my my 6 puck lights. I was looking at the new Radions, which I was telling you about, and they have the G6. I believe it. Let's just call them that for now, whatever, because they got the 2 different types, and they were saying how they have different settings already pre-programmed in them, depending on what
Yep.
you want. I'm like, why do that if you? I mean, shouldn't it just be automatically set for what's going to be best for all tanks? But I
Well,
mean,
I mean,
then you get to the desire of the user, I guess.
yeah. I had some lights from Japan. They were sick as shit. They were really super fucking expensive. Called Spectra SP200. Do you ever see those lights when I posted about them?
No.
It's kind of like a more like complex light. It actually the app is based on where the coral naturally originates. So you basically, like, as you're going deeper in the ocean, things,
Mm-hmm.
things are getting like the light is getting like filtered.
Yeah, you get less intensity.
That's why corals have actually evolved to use chlorophyll A and C, and plants actually use a different like a different chlorophyll, so they don't have to deal with the filtering. But
Because I've never heard anyone really talk about chlorophyll with reef tanking before, or reefing.
anyway, like to get back to what I was saying, I think they give you the option to mess with the spectrum because uh, certain corals have different requirements. You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, I melted fucking torches, dude. I had like I was telling you 6 supplemental LEDs, 2 Orphics. I just fucking melted wild torches. And those corals have to be treated with care. So,
Now I know you got out for a little while and you just set up, and I see how big your acros are in the back. Did you buy them that way, or are they just growing there
uh,
quickly? Because
no, those are all colonies that like yeah, like a lot of those are like the only one that was a colony that I grew from a frag was the Miyagi tort. And when I was breaking down the tank to put the fish in the 300, um,
yeah,
the rock broke, and
ah,
it crushed the Miyagi tort. It was really sad. But
I just never been able to get purples like you. I can see in the background like you.
yeah, I think it's mostly a lighting issue, man, and maybe a little bit of like nitrate.
So you said nitrates,
Yeah,
or you just cut out at the end. I want to make sure I heard you on
yeah,
that.
nitrates.
So I mean, you
I'm not
do you
talking
think
about being too high, but being too low.
you lagged
You know,
out there for a second?
oh, yeah, I think the fucking stream is bad, dude.
I think it's coming back.
Okay.
No, you were saying I lost you on nitrates.
Oh, so nitrates and phosphates are kind of a complicated issue. You know, people say stability is important, but what I've seen is like it almost seems like corals get better coloration at like 5 to 10 um, parts per million. You know, um,
And that's where I was wondering exactly, because I feel like with me having zero nitrates, that's also possibly an issue.
well, you know, see, there's a caveat to biopellets. Like they reduce nutrients, but they also can feed your corals. But yeah, I honestly, in my opinion, I'd probably not use the biopellets if it were me. Um, you know, I've tried carbon dosing, but it's just man, like it always ends up badly, like always. You know?
And I mean, I'm not religious, and I got my BRF carbon and um, whatever, and I don't change it out as often as I should.
No, no, no. I'm talking about carbon dosing.
Oh, oh I've never
Yeah, so
dosed.
biopellets are carbon dosing.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a carbon polymer that basically feeds um, denitrifying and nitrifying bacteria. Um, and so that bacteria um, absorbs nitrate and phosphate, and
Mm-hmm.
then basically it gets filtered out by your mechanical filtration or consumed by corals.
Gotcha. And so, with me running my biopellets, that's why they're shrinking, because it's eating up all the nitrates,
Yep.
and it's not leaving it. It could almost be saturating the tank from what it really needs.
Yeah. Yeah. But I almost think that like you're running it at um, a good rate because you're not getting any cyano. You know,
Yeah.
you're not getting any bacterial blooms, which are two side effects of possible side effects of carbon dosing. Um, I would do an ICP test honestly. Have you done those?
Never even heard of an ICP test.
Okay. You give your water sample to a lab, and they like evaluate the major and minor elements of your tank.
You think before even doing water, and what about water changes? I get the mix where people say if you're not having nitrates, don't mess with it. Are
Nah,
your nitrates? Do you believe in doing regular water changes
I mean it kind of
for
varies.
coral growth?
It kind of varies depending on your water volume. Um, but like if you have 1,000 gallon system, unless you have the ability to make 300 gallons of water, I don't really know what's going to be. I don't know if it's going to make an appreciable difference. Um, but for a system like yours, which is 120 gallons, I think
Yep.
a 20% water change weekly, I mean, even like every 10 days, it's good for your system, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I see the waste that comes up when I do it, and I'm always, I mean, 2 water changes a month is and 30 gallons.
Yeah, like it's funny because sometimes people will notice that their corals are doing poorly, and then they'll start doing a lot of water changes,
Yeah,
and then it ends up, because nutrients are just as important as like pH and alkalinity, major minor elements in terms of staying stable. Because in the wild they do not, they don't like deviate. They're pretty
that's
stable. So
now if I turned off. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say if I turn off my biopellet reactor for a week and my nitrates jump up, how quickly do you think, in your experience, would you start seeing coral? Would you notice anything with the corals?
I feel like it's almost not as um, it doesn't have as drastic of an effect going up versus coming down.
Oh, okay.
Almost like almost like alkalinity. Like I've never noticed like bad like I've never noticed the reef having um, like a bad reaction to the alkalinity going up versus coming like dropping down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I don't even. It's going to naturally work its way up. I think.
I mean, I tested with the Red Sea kit yesterday, and
Yeah.
both my calcium was down to 350, which is the lowest it's been in forever, and
What your
my
alkalinity?
my alkalinity, which is usually I tested it 2 weeks ago, and it was at 10, and it was only about 3 hours difference in the day. So from when I dosed with my Apex, so I didn't expect it to be that much different. It went from 2 weeks ago at 10, and it was at 7.82. So I mean, they both dropped a lot. So I
That's
increased my dosing.
a large effect on your pH.
See, my pH has been staying around 7.8, 9, somewhere around there. I haven't
Yeah.
seen a huge dip in that.
Um, but weren't you saying your
I
pH like higher, like like 8.1, 8.2?
my pH is never. I mean, I'm lucky if my pH hits 8.
All right. So I what do you use to dose again?
I
You
only
said
dose.
two little fishies.
I, I dose from Red Sea. Their Foundation A are calcium and alkalinity,
Yeah.
and then I'll add in. I'll feed my. I'm starting to feed my tank more Reproids and some Fido weekly.
How often
About.
dose your one
I'm sorry.
two? How often are you dosing?
I'm my alkalinity and calcium dose every night,
Oh,
or one at night and one in the morning.
yeah. That's the problem, man. Because your consumption can change pretty regularly. So um,
And is that indicative of more core growth, or do you think just the tank fluctuations?
things, dude. It could be like you have a heavier bio load. Your fish, aerobically respirate, so they're putting off more CO2. There could be a change in the levels of ambient CO2 in your house. Um, you know, uh, and like organic acids, can affect it as well. And so that's kind of like what I was alluding to earlier. People associate like alkalinity with only coral growth, but it's really a lot. It's really a lot more than just that.
And I think
So
that's the thing that most hobbyists don't even realize. I mean, because I always was told just keep it here, keep increasing the dosage, but the only reason that it would go change is water changing or your corals are growing. I
yeah,
think
um,
that's what a lot of people think that way. Don't
you,
put it past that.
yeah. If you leave, if you make a fresh bucket of seawater and then you
Yep.
leave it open to the air, the alkalinity is going to fall, and it's going to continuously fall over time. Um, until um, I don't know like when it like stops falling, but
Mm-hmm.
basically it's just reacting with the ambient CO2.
See, and I would have correlated that with um, the water evaporation because it's salt.
Um,
Just, I mean, as a novice, if I thought about it, because my ATO is always topping off with RODI,
yeah.
and so
Well,
I would think if it was in a bucket.
water is evaporating, then that would lead me to believe that the major elements are actually going up because there's a
That's
lower
a good
volume.
that's a good point. So yeah, if it does go down, then that's just
Yeah,
all the outside factors.
it's basically just has to do with CO2 reacting with bicarbonate and carbonate and becoming carbonic acid. So um,
So
yeah, so basically what I was saying is like people make these huge vats of seawater, and then
yeah,
and then they it's not airtight. If you leave it airtight, that's one thing. There's you're not going to get a reaction with the CO2. But if you leave it open to air, I mean, it's going to fall, or it can go down to like 7. That affects the pH.
And I always just think it looks nicer. That's why I got the rimless tank. But now, say if I get a custom lid where it almost covers a lot, do you think that would help also with alkalinity?
Hold up 1 second. Hey Nick, how you doing, buddy? What was your question, Jim?
If you say if I put a nice, because there's all these, I see Kraken, I see all these different companies making these beautiful lids with the neon and the feeding cups and all that other stuff, and that's what I was thinking about doing next for my tank. And do you think that would?
Still didn't hear what you said.
I said I was thinking about doing a custom top since my tank is rimless. And do you think that would help not lose that much to help retain the alkalinity levels?
No, I wouldn't mess with that.
Yeah.
Just because.
The other reason I was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't mess with that just because it's more than just CO2. It's oxygen.
And the funny thing, I lost you there, but what I was going to say is my bioload in my tank, this is the lightest I've ever had it in years. So for it to drop that much, I was really shocked.
Yeah, it's a lot of different things, man. Hey Nick, so give us a little summary about your tank, man. What kind of reef do you keep? Yeah, we're gonna go in 5. Yep. Yeah, so yeah, I've noticed that too, man. I think that's pretty common. Have a serious drop in your alkalinity. Bubble scrubbing method. Is that supposed to like affect like the slime that your corals put off? I think that's what it's supposed to do, right?
I've always been curious about them. I mean, I've seen them in certain systems, and I think they look amazing, but I just never seen how those work.
Yeah, I actually don't know too much about it. I mean, you know, I guess it's supposed to have some kind of like physiological kind of reaction. I mean, I don't think there's a chemical reaction going on. If it's a chemical reaction, then it involves, like oxygen.
Yeah.
And
which you would think it is involving oxygen because you see the bubbles.
What did you say?
I would always think that it is involving oxygen because you're creating bubbles.
Yeah, and I mean, you could monitor that from, your oxygen level, but I don't know. I mean, I would think that would be kind of hard to kind of quantify,
Besides having a
other than just having like a subjective, like non-quantifiable, like because I would think that's kind of hard.
What do you recommend on for sensors? And because I mean, I saw on your Apex you were able to see your par levels. On my Apex, I can only see pH, salinity, and that's it. Really, not really much else.
Hey Ari, how are you doing, man? Do you have a reef tank? So you said it's the cheapest, best thing you can do for your reef tank. So I mean, Nick, you injects dissolved oxygen, raises and maintains pH, cleanses corals, light receptors, uh, flotates waste. Did you mean to type that? I've never heard of flotates. Anyway,
I mean, if it does all that, that sounds good, but I don't know how to add that into my system.
I mean, so yeah. In most of your, like, if you have adequate water movement and you're breaking surface tension, then
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much it would actually like increase oxygen levels. It's just one thing I really haven't looked into too much. And I
Yeah.
know that what's his name? Coralito. Have you seen Coralito?
No, I mean I've seen the name.
Oh, okay, yeah, he does that. Worldwide Corals just came and did a video on his tank.
That's cool.
So yeah, I gotta go, man. But it was really nice talking to you, dude.
You too. And what I'll do is I'll keep doing the 2 times a week feeding of the reefroids and the and what Fido, excuse me, and because I just started a week ago, and we'll see what happens. Maybe a month, see what happens in growth, and slowly increase the whites and UVs.
Yeah, and just I think for me, monitoring, salinity, temperature, phosphate, um, alkalinity, things like that are probably pretty important. But took apart a debate about bubble scrubbing on Reef Dude's channel a few years back. Oh. Yeah, Nick, I think I've seen your tank before, dude. Okay, Jeremy, it was really nice talking to you, man.
No, I appreciate the information, man. You have a great night.
You too.
All right.